Hi guys, thanks for joining me on what is now episode 6 of Build to Scale, which is a series for trades and construction businesses to help them grow and scale and eventually get off the tools, help them build an asset of their business. So this week we're going to look at how not to get burned by marketing agencies and web designers. And that might seem ironic being presented by a marketing agency, but this is a collection of my thoughts on how you as trade and construction businesses can avoid the trap of getting burned and getting overpromised to and oversold to and under-delivered in terms of results. So I'm going to share with you 12 ideas that if you just adopt them in your business, it's going to help protect you against unscrupulous agencies that are just out there to promise the world and under-deliver. Because it doesn't do anybody any good, especially in my industry. So here's some thoughts for you. You're not alone in this. This is a problem. This happens all the time where you get into conversations with agencies, and they'll tell you things like, we're going to get you to the top of Google, going to get you to number 1 of Google, or you need a new website first. You've got to get yourself a new website. Usually quite expensive, it's going to take 6 months before you're going to see any results, or kind of getting oversold the notion of brand awareness. Brand is a really important thing in marketing, but it can also be used as a bit of a cover for not doing much, but saying, well, we're getting you good brand awareness, but ultimately that brand awareness has got to follow through to good quality leads eventually. So £3,000 is on average what gets wasted by trades businesses every year on bad marketing, unstrategic, poorly planned and poorly thought out. So here's some ways that you can protect yourself. So the first one that we're going to tackle is your website. Now, you may get sold on the idea that you need a brand new all-encompassing website. And in some cases that might be true. But in other cases, it might be that the website is not the problem, but you're just not getting enough qualified traffic to the website. So before you spend anything, write down the problem that you're looking to solve, because if you can't write that problem down, you're not going to be able to properly brief an agency to work on your behalf. Before you go out and spend big bucks on a new website, ask yourself the question, are you actually getting traffic to the website? And do you need a brand new website? It might be that tweaking the existing website could be the way to go. You just don't know. But that's an important question to ask. Getting oversold to is a big problem in this industry. So big promises, there's lots of red flags with these sorts of promises. So we're going to guarantee you this number of leads a month. We only work with one of your trade in every area. That's usually BS, by the way, because if another one came along and offered them money, they're going to take it, right? We'll get you to number 1 on Google. Nobody can promise that. Google is a fast-moving beast, and it's not always about Google anyway. There's lots of other channels, there's lots of other platforms that you should consider as well. But saying you're going to get number 1 on Google, nobody can promise that. You're going to see results in 2 weeks. That's typically overselling, over-promising. When you switch on a campaign, you may well get some leads coming in the first few weeks, and that's certainly the objective. We want to get off to a fast start, but saying you're going to transform their business in a couple of weeks, it's just not going to happen. £5 per lead, no contract needed. If people are selling you cheap leads, the chances are they're getting sold to multiple businesses as well at the same time. So you're in a bit of a bun fight, a bit of a race to the bottom. So just some tactics to be wary of. And before you hire a marketing agency or web designer, do your due diligence like you would when you're hiring a subcontractor into your team or a partner into your business that's doing work on your behalf on site. So, look for Google reviews, Trustpilot reviews, look at LinkedIn. Lots of business owners are on LinkedIn. Are they posting frequently? Are they active and engaging on there? Do they have recommendations on there? Have a look at these sources of information. Have a look at case studies on their website. Are you seeing real results, real tangible results that you want in your business? Are they working with businesses that are similar to yours already? That's often a good way to hire a business. Look for testimonials and those deeper case studies. And, Companies House is a good source of information. How up to date are they in their returns? How long have they been trading? All that kind of stuff. So That's number 3. Number 4, learn a little bit about marketing yourself. Marketing, there's kind of 3 skills in running a business that are really important: good leadership skills, good sales skills, and good marketing skills. When they all work together, then you can be really successful. But learning a few of the basics about marketing can be really important. And when you're going into meetings with agencies or freelancers, just having a little bit of information yourself about how local SEO works, how Google Ads works. You don't need to know how to set them up and do them. You just need to know a broad amount of information about these things. And it's everywhere. It's at your fingertips, because you can ask ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Copilot any number of questions, and it's always going to give you a fairly reasonable answer. So you can normally sniff out any bullshit just by talking to some of these tools, and you can learn some stuff as well. And there's lots of videos and YouTube and everything else. So learn a little bit about marketing yourself, how it works, the importance of it in growing a brand, and that will help to defend you against any bullshit. This is a really important one. This really grinds my gears when I come across this. So when we start working with a new business and we have to get access to their domain name, their website, any of their Google tools, often it's usually, oh yeah, my mate dealt with that a few years ago, I can't get hold of him now. Or yeah, my family member deals with all that, I'll put you in touch with them. It's really important that you as the business owner have access to your domain name, your web hosting, your website, so you can get in and make any changes yourself. Any of your Google tools like Google Analytics, Google Search Console. I get that you're running a business and these things might not seem important, but just having access to them is really, really critical, because they're a part of an asset of your business. So much like your vans, you wouldn't give the keys to your van to somebody else and let them be responsible for it. You shouldn't leave your other tools, which are your website, your social media presence, and all these other things. You shouldn't give the keys away to somebody. You've got to retain a set of keys yourself. Look out for some of these red flags where agencies will talk in broad terms. Things like social media management. Yeah, well, we do social media management. What does that actually mean? How many posts are you getting? How many platforms are they posting to? Will they get your approval before posting on your behalf? You might talk about SEO, search engine optimization, but what does that actually mean? What are the target keywords that we're going after? How much traffic does that keyword deliver if we do go for it? And what's the intent behind that search? These are really important fundamental things. So don't just accept broad brush terminology, actually dig into the detail. We're going to give you monthly reporting. Great. What does that monthly reporting include? Is it going to include the numbers and the stats that are going to be important to help me grow my business? Cost per lead, cost per sale, average order value, conversion rates. What data am I going to get in my monthly report that's going to help inform how I grow my business? Another one, be wary for terminology like impressions. You might hear marketers talk about impressions. They're often big numbers, because they are big numbers, but they're numbers that are so detached from reality that it's often overused in presentations because they sound good. So just quickly, an impression in social media or Google or other platforms, it's a number that purely says how many times your business has been visible in a directory, in a scroll on social media. It's not a rigid sort of metric of how seriously people are taking your business. So an impression is just how many times it's been seen. Doesn't mean somebody has physically seen it. It just means, so in Google terms, an impression is if your business has been returned in a search, but it could be buried on page 3 or 4, it will still count as an impression, but it's not going to deliver anything for you. So be wary of getting oversold those numbers, because they're big numbers and they may sound important, but in reality, it's things like how many qualified leads have been delivered, how many book jobs have you had from those leads, what's the cost per lead, and what's the revenue that you can attribute to the marketing that you're doing. They're the only numbers that you should be concerned about. Lofty numbers at the top, ignore them. Look in the contracts and the proposed contracts. A lot of companies will try and sign you up for 6 or 12-month contracts, and you know what? That's fine, because a lot of the time they're doing a lot of work up front, which is kind of front loaded on the contract. So it's only fair and right that maybe there's a 6 or 12-month contract in place. But here's the thing: look out for exit clauses, and make sure that there is some sort of exit clause in there. Definitely on a 12-month contract. We often talk about a 6-month exit clause if we haven't delivered the work to a suitable standard and the volume of work that we said we'd commit to. There is a route out on both sides. So make sure, if you're signing up to lengthy contracts, that there is some sort of exit clause in there. So moving on to number 9, if you do get sold on price and price alone, usually there is a trade-off somewhere. So if you've got a very, very cheap quote to do some work, it's because it's being offshored somewhere else. And that's not always a bad thing. Lots of businesses successfully offshore their production, but it can often mean that there's a link in the chain which is vulnerable. So if you're dealing with someone in the Far East, for example, there's obviously a time delay, but you have less control, you have less management over the work and the quality of the work. So just be careful. It's not a particularly big red flag, this, but if you're buying cheap services, you have to ask the question, where is the shortcut in this? And it's often that it's being offshored to less qualified people and less understanding of your business. The final one, so number 10 and 11, verify the humans that are going to be doing the work beyond the pitch. So usually when agencies are pitching, they will put their best people on it because they want to win the work. But frequently what happens is the work is actually being done by more junior people that have less experience. So the quality of the work can suffer. I've seen this happen lots of times, especially in the world of Google Ads, where a senior partner, senior account manager will do the pitch, but then the work will be offloaded to a much more junior, cheaper person to do the work. So just be aware of that and ask to meet the people that are going to be delivering the work on the behalf of your business. That's really important. And then the final one is make sure that there's milestones in place, so that if you are being told that something's going to take 3 to 6 months to do, that there are very distinct milestones as part of that project journey. So it's not untypical to see the best results are going to take 6 to 12 months, right? That's just a fact of where we are. But that doesn't mean to say you're not going to get results along the way, and you shouldn't try and stipulate some milestones. So what's happening in month 1, what's happening in month 2, what's happening in month 3, and very frequently you're going to see the best results much further down the line, when all of the efforts of marketing have compounded to come together to produce really strong Google AdWords, really strong website, really strong search engine optimization. So you're getting found organically in the Google search, but what are the milestones to get there? That's really important that that's spelled out. So, these again, so your 12-point checklist before engaging with any agency. Number 1, you need to know what problem you're trying to solve in your business, because if you can't articulate that to yourself, the brief to the agency is going to be very wafty and unspecific. Number 2, if it sounds too good to be true, it generally is, and generally bullshit. Number 3, do your own proper due diligence on the agency or freelance that you're about to hire. Number 4, learn enough to be able to spot a charlatan, spot a bullshitter. So do some learning of your own. Number 5, own your own assets. So things like access to your website, your hosting, your domain name, and any other aspects of your online presence. Number 6, get deliverables in writing. So what's going to be delivered? When's it going to be delivered? Number 7, demand results and metrics that prove those results, not vanity metrics. Remember, impressions don't really count for much. It's leads, qualified leads. How many of those leads are turning into paid jobs? Read any exit clauses. Make sure that you've got some exit clauses in your contract. Number 9, if it's cheap and it's too good to be true, normally there's a shortcut somewhere. Number 10, speak to a real and current client of that agency if you can, or look for good quality case studies and testimonials for work that's been done in your industry by the agency. Number 11, really important, meet the person who's actually doing the work. So frequently you will get oversold to in a meeting with a senior partner, and in reality, the person doing the work is far more junior and far less able. Number 12, make sure you've got milestones in place before you start the work, so that even if the results are going to take a few months, that you've got very distinct milestones along the way, so you know progress is being made. And that's it, really. I try and keep these to under 15 minutes. This one's gone a little bit over, so apologies for that. But if you do want to understand more about your online presence, about your digital presence, then go onto our website. You can book a free growth audit. And what I will do, I'll have a look at your digital presence, your website, your SEO, and kind of just give you some honest feedback on that. So hope you enjoyed that one this week. Join me next week. We'll talk about another topic that's going to help trades and construction businesses grow. But for now, I will leave you there. Thanks very much for watching.